Hey, this is Christy James, and this is my leading video today. Some of my participants are Mike Sterrett, who's an assistant principal here on campus, and Lisa Nassar, she's a third grade teacher here on campus, and Maria Cruz, she's a special education teacher with a extensive knowledge with special ed students starting back in 1976. So our focus group today, after speaking to my principal, is getting some feedback from staff on campus about professional development. Now, that can be in ideas, money issues related to budget, if a teacher sees some special development conferences they want to attend to, people coming in, how does it affect morale. Some of the I do have an agenda that we're going to be following, and some of our stuff that we're going to be talking about is how effective are the professional development opportunities for teachers and staff. And when we mean by effective, do they take those back into the classroom and use them? Are professional development opportunities passed up due to money if the school doesn't pay for it? Those are just some of my ideas, and I know that the focus group is probably going to help out quite a bit in giving us some more feedback about what they think about the different areas of professional development. Some of the items on the agenda are, what do they think is the purpose of professional development? And again, to me, a focus group is to be able to feel non-threatening about what they're talking about, no matter who's on the focus group. So I want everybody to feel very comfortable in giving their ideas. Some questions I will ask them are, on our campus, would you perceive, or what ways, or what would you include in professional development? I think a lot of teachers and staff have some ideas. They may write them down, but they're never really used. I think a lot of teachers' ideas maybe put on a sticky note and just put off on their desk. There's a lot of people that could contribute to professional development that are never asked. So those are another question. And another question is, in what ways is professional development inadequate? And again, I always refer back to, well, you know what? I went to that professional development activity, didn't really help me. So I'm going to take the notes and just put them in my binder and put it on the shelf. And it's never looked at again. Nothing's ever implemented about that professional development because it didn't directly pertain to me. So those are just some ideas that the focus group will help us with. What is the degree of importance do members, such as staff and teachers, place on professional development? I mean, is it a priority to them? Is it just something that they just go to and, I've been teaching for 10 years, I'm not going to worry about it. Those are just some ideas. How important is it on a campus? Is it made a priority? What would you recommend for solutions or even some ideas for professional development? Do you want to bring in an outside source for professional development? Maybe you have a group of staff people that always toss around ideas. So that's another question we're going to be talking about, is where do those ideas come from? Can you pull from your staff? Do you need to go to the region? Maybe you have some staff people you didn't know were able to have some great ideas. How do we communicate issues and solutions on our campus? And that directly can go to professional development. Do we do professional development on the computer? Do we have a person come from the outside and do professional development? Do we pull from our staff first? Does our budget limit us on professional development? So those are just some other ideas and other questions that I want to ask them, or our focus group will be answering and helping us out with. What is in the future beneficial professional development? Is it meaningful to the teachers? Do they feel like that is too generalized? So if you just teach math, that was about special ed, that doesn't directly relate to me. I'm going to go, but I'm not going to do anything with that information. What in the future would be great or beneficial to teachers and staff and beneficial to the campus for professional development? Next question is, does a budget affect professional development? Do we ask our staff to first use free services like the regions? Does our budget allocate enough for our teachers to attend professional development? If a teacher wants to attend something and the district won't pay for it, does that directly affect morale? Those are just kind of some things I can see might be in the focus group. They may or may not. I don't know. And then another question that I had was, how likely would a teacher or another staff member actually teach some professional development? Maybe the principal finds out that one of the teachers is really good at technology. Maybe a teacher has some really cool ideas that she went to the principal with and wanted to show some other district teachers some really cool math stuff that she's teaching. And what ideas or solutions do we have to make professional development meaningful to others in the district? So that's what we're going to be talking about today too. So in the end, I'm going to give them a survey about our focus group. And on our survey, some of our questions are, was the focus group helpful to you, yes or no? And I put on the survey, they are more than welcome to provide additional information. I love surveys. I think they give you a feedback very quickly. I think that it's helpful to ask for helpful information. Were the objectives of the meeting met, yes or no? Did we follow the agenda? Maybe we got off task. I don't know. We'll find out. Was a meeting conducted in a timely manner? We know our time is very, very valuable in education. So when we attend meetings, which sometimes we're meeting to death, we want to make sure that it's conducted in a timely manner. If you're conducting a meeting before school and you call me at 8 o'clock and the bell rings at 8:25, you don't have very long to take care of stuff. So you need to make sure that your meeting is conducted in a timely manner. Was communication effective for the meeting? Did we interrupt each other? Did we listen? Okay, those are some other questions from my survey. Other questions are, was collaboration observed in the group? Maybe some people just sat there and may not even respond. I don't know. A focus group to me should be non-threatening to be able where everybody can participate. Was listening and relevance of topics discussed? Did we get off the subject? Did we stay on the subject? Another part of the feedback is any additional comments are always helpful to me. If there is any other additional comments that our focus group can help on, that would be great. Especially since We have an assistant principal, a third grade teacher, and a special education teacher. To me, that represents not a whole portion of your campus, but at least a good variety of who we have on campus. Other questions are, in the future, what would they like to see in professional development? Again, to me, that's directly related to campus morale for all staff members, and that includes the school secretary. And it trickles down into the community, to our students in the classroom, even into the cafeteria staff. So, professional development to me is very, very important. I would like to see what the focus group thinks. I think they'll probably have the same opinion as me, that they think it's important. However, there are some staff members that may not think it's important. That's what I'm really interested to find in our focus group is new ideas, how important it is to a teacher. Should it extend to all staff members? If it doesn't, maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. Do we have professional development that is handed down to us that's mandatory from administration? Do we get to create our own? Can teachers come up with ideas? Can it be broken down into different areas where professional development ideas are separate from math and social studies and science and special education? Those different types of aspects. Is it better to break professional development down? So I'm excited to be able to find out, what are we going to find out about this? Is this something maybe the teachers like? Maybe they don't like it. Maybe they don't really care, about going to professional development. Maybe they're just writing stuff down, printing out the notes, sticking them in a binder, putting them up. So I'm excited. So I look forward to our focus group, and we'll get started. Okay. I really appreciate you guys coming in. I really do, because I know that this is time that y'all have taken out of your day that you could be doing other stuff. So I really appreciate that. I really do. What I would like for us to do is, after meeting with our campus principal, one of the areas that we discussed that is a huge need is new visions and new ideas about professional development. So what I would like your feedback on is, what is professional development to you? Okay. And our goal for today is to provide useful information for our campus in regards to professional development. And we want to identify and address some specific areas of need. And then we're going to have some follow-up questions we may break off into, just to talk aside. And then the last thing we'll do is a quick survey. And then we'll just come back and just add anything that any of us have forgotten. So, let's go around and introduce ourselves, and I'll start with myself. I'm Christy James, and I'm a special education teacher, and I'm doing my master's in educational administration at Lamar University at Beaumont, Texas. And we'll just go around and introduce ourselves, and I'll start with you.
I am Lisa Nassar. I'm a third grade teacher. I have been a third grade teacher for about 9 years, have taught 5th grade and 1st grade, and have taught for 15 total years, but some of that I taught actually overseas schools, and then I am now back here. I love elementary. I think it's the best, so I'm really looking forward to this chat with Miss James on how we can improve school improvement,
professional
development. Yes. And that's about it.
I'm Maria Cruz. I have worked with special education since 1976. I have taught my upbringing as a professional was in Puerto Rico. Then I've taught in California, overseas, and North Carolina in different aspects of special ed, including elementary school and middle school. So I'm looking forward to these chat with Ms. James.
Okay.
I'm Mike Starrett. I'm the assistant principal. I have been an educator for 27 years. I have taught 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, been an assistant principal, a principal, a district office staff developer.
Wow.
I grew up overseas, so I've had a wide range of educational experiences.
That sounds like it. That's awesome, though. You know, bring a lot to your campus. I know for sure you probably do. So, one thing that I wanted to talk with you guys about and get some feedback from you is what areas on your campus would you perceive that you would like to include in professional development? Maybe in the future, or maybe you had some ideas just up in your head, or maybe you wrote them down on a sticky note and put them back. Or maybe there's something that you saw a need on your campus even last year that you want to share. So Ms. Nassar, do you have anything on that?
Well, we could always use professional development on looking at data and interpreting what's the best needs for the students to help drive our instruction as well as to help the children. And by looking at that data, we can utilize our specialists in other areas to assist us in the classroom. So data is usually always an area that's a need for teachers to look at, because oftentimes we get so consumed with what is going on in the classroom and we have a calendar and a schedule that we need to follow, that we sometimes overlook that very critical point. And if we are just ignoring the data and continuing to move forward, how are we best helping our children? So I think data is always a good professional development area. And another area I think is important is technology, because that is our students' future. And we as educators, regardless of our age or our years teaching or experience, we need to be able to utilize the technological resources to help our students, to provide them from as early on as preschool all the way through, because that's not going to change in our world. That
Right.
is their world, their future, more than it would be ours.
Exactly.
So-
We actually have to keep up with them.
Right.
Because I know, even as far as our grandson, who's 3, can do anything on iPad. I mean, and his mother's cell phone. So, yeah. So that is something that we know that starts at an early age, and that's something that we're never going to get away from. But I have to continue to go to classes myself in order to even keep up with the little guys and the little girls that, even can get into their parents' phone and figure out the password. And that has happened before, but that's how young they are. And that, just like Ms. Nassar said, that's a huge thing with education today. So
I'd like to see more staff development in how we can better serve the kids in the regular classroom, including the piece of technology, and how can we adapt the regular ed curriculum to better serve the special education teacher and the special education students, to include them in society. So,
okay.
So the functioning of the regular curriculum should include pieces that are realistic for the students to be included in everyday activities.
And so some good ideas with professional development for that.
Yes.
Which again, you could maybe you could go ahead and continue technology. I know a lot of our special ed kids now do carry iPads into the regular ed classrooms. You know,
And they
but
use them to communicate.
Yes.
Because they have stumbling blocks in communication. So that's one area that the kids can use to communicate with society and teachers and friends and every day.
right. So I guess what I'm thinking would be another idea on that area is helping with professional development with the regular ed teachers, maybe even to know if little Johnny or Susie brings in that iPad for communication, she knows how to work that too. You know, whether she's using the PAC system or has even went and made regular pictures. I know that sometimes I like real world pictures for my students when I have them on the iPad. And their schedule, I'll go around. If they have music, I'm going to take a picture of the music teacher. And that becomes part of their schedule. But then there's also all kinds of programs for the iPads for that. So that's really good. You have any ideas?
The staff development for as a whole is one of those things that really needs to have a bi-directional kind of focus. Not only do district areas see what is coming and want to apply the different new strategies, implement new curriculum, look for resources that are going to be supporting classroom teachers, special ed teachers, but you also want to go from the bottom up. You need to ask teachers, through a needs survey, something along those lines, what exactly is it that you need as far as staff development is concerned. When we talk about technology, there may be small pieces that people need some help with, or there may be a larger understanding of technology in this day and age and how you use it. We talk a lot about 21st century teaching and learning. Well, that's more than just the tools. That's a philosophy. Those things that you talk about with the International Society for Technology Education, ISTE. They have the National Education Technology Standards for students, for teachers, for administrators, and those are expectations. And they've even adapted those in the last 15 years. It started out very basic, and now it's become much more skill-based or philosophy-based. There's skills, but there's philosophy behind it. There's also the 7 survival skills that students will need in this next century that we talk about. The adaptability and it's been a little while that since I've been into it, but looking for those tools, those understandings, those philosophies to underpin what it is that you need to learn. That's where staff development probably needs to look. You have the big picture, but what is it that is going to underpin those ideas?
Right.
When we talk about math, when we're looking at math instruction, how do we do that? Are we looking more at types of groups that we have? Are we talking about individual instruction? Are we talking about utilizing technology tools to augment instruction? Different things along those lines. But understanding the curriculum, sometimes that's a staff development in and of itself.
Right.
Especially as we get more and more into what is Common Core.
Right.
While there's a lot of people who have opted out of Common Core, there are still strong basics involved in Common Core.
Okay.
It's a matter of knowing what it is. We can't unify ourselves as a country when we're not teaching so many different things. You got to find the standards that are common amongst all the states, and you can find that in state standards. But staff development itself, a staff developer needs to honor people's time. A staff developer needs to remember to be here, prepared to be nowhere else, and that applies to those that are receiving the staff development as well. We're so distracted and we're so worried about other things that are going on, and that's a multifaceted issue. But when you're wanting the staff development, if it's important to you, if it bubbles up from teachers,
Excuse me.
this is going to be important to them, then there's more likely that you're going to be successful in your staff development and in what you're doing. So all of that, there's so much in the changing world that's important that you could start from ground zero essentially right now and build a staff development plan, and it can build on things, but there's going to be some new stuff as well.
Okay. I like the idea of where you were talking about, going to your staff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is directly related to campus morale too.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to your teachers and just say, hey, I saw that you were, working on this really cool thing in your classroom when
Mm-hmm.
I passed by. Could you possibly help the other teachers in a professional development? Tell them about it or show them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you can take something that small and really turn it into a really neat hands-on professional development, staff development day. Well, that's awesome information already. What areas on campus would you perceive that you would like? And again, maybe you've already answered this, but to include in your professional development, technology. Ms. Nassar said to incorporate some data.
Mm-hmm.
You can take that data information from the whole campus and then take that professional development to me and extend it from there.
Mm-hmm.
In what areas do you guys think that staff development is inadequate? Or
That's a tough one, only because you have to know exactly where everybody is.
right?
People have their own strengths and deficits. Where are we inadequate? I don't know that we necessarily are. We have so many resources available to us from our district level. We have experts within our school level. We have, practices that go on all over the place. It's just a matter of tapping into those things and people being receptive to hearing
Right.
what somebody else has to say, whether it's a colleague or someone in an instructional support capacity. That's where you're going to find out whether there's a deficit or if there's a strength.
Right.
Well, and one thing too, a kindergarten through second grade teacher or kindergarten through third grade teacher may look at data entirely different than an intermediate teacher might. So the data for our primary ages is going to look significantly different than our data from our intermediate ages.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might not be conducive for a kindergarten teacher to be sitting in a data professional development with a fifth grade teacher.
Right.
Or a third grade teacher, or however, it worked out. So I think it needs to be meaningful to that individual.
Right.
If it's not, then it's forced, and we all know how forcing things on teachers comes out. So I think we have to be careful when we plan them, that we plan them with a very specific objective and a very specific focus that pertains to that group of teachers.
Right.
So, and sometimes that's easy, sometimes that's not.
Right.
But and I'm not saying that we shouldn't vertically align ourselves as a school, because it is important that second grade teachers kind of have an idea of what third grade needs, and then third grade needs to have an idea of what fourth grade would need, so that we are working together as colleagues and as a team and as a school to do what's best for our students. And so
I think that Mr. Sterrett said something very important at the beginning. The need assessment is going to determine what areas of professional development each individual is going to need. And if it's important and relevant for the person, then the person is going to have a great investment. But if it's not relevant, people are not going to engage. So I think that's a difficult area to meet every professional need in every professional development that you design.
yeah, there's no
Right.
one size fits all.
True.
And oftentimes that's how a lot of professional developments are put out. We're all clumped into one, and when you look around the room, you see a lot of zoned out, a lot of those who are engaged, and then those who just are wondering why they're even there. So
the only way that I have seen that might help that is you have a general overall topic, and then you might break that down by grade. You know, if you're in an elementary, you know, now we're going to break that down by grade group, by the different grades.
Sure.
And then take that topic and discuss it on that level. And I'm sorry, on each different grade level. That way it might really go for that teacher. And that way he or she gets the most benefit out of that topic.
right.
You know.
What we've done in the past is we've started with our belief system. Who are we? You know, what is it that we believe about teaching and learning? What do we believe about our kids? Starting from there, then you start talking about what do we need in order to meet these beliefs at the highest level. You know, you're going to have people who are really strong in special education. In special education, now that I'm thinking back to it a little bit, special education may be one of those areas where special education students in the regular ed classroom, you know, included in the regular ed classroom, or you know, is sometimes a little daunting for some folks, especially newer teachers or teachers who've not had to work with students like that in the past. The more we talk about inclusion, the more there may be some discomfort, just because how do I handle this?
Right.
So you believe that all kids can learn. Okay. How are we going to do that? So what we've done in the past is we've taken those things and started with, from there, within our needs assessment, what do you need to know? Because it's hard to know what you don't know.
Right.
So you can put out a needs assessment as, well, I don't know. I have no idea what I need. Well, this is where we're going. Incorporate those things from the district level down that says, as a district, this is what we are doing. So how you find that happy balance. You may have folks who are strong in math. You may have folks who are strong in special ed. You may have folks who are strong in integrating technology. Other folks, and it's a courage thing. People have to be courageous enough or feel secure enough to say, I need help with this. Some people get to that point and some people don't, but you then encourage those people, look, this is a safe environment. If you need something, we're here to help.
Right.
Rather than, did you know that somebody doesn't know this? You know, well,
Right.
okay, so what are you doing to help that person?
Right.
You know, the needs assessment drives or the beliefs drive the needs assessment, drives the staff development. The staff development is then leveled, so that you have people who are know very little or know a whole lot and just need some tweaking. And then over a period of time, what we've done in the past is set up time where you can take it to a deeper and deeper level. But then you have everybody getting what they need to get the entire school where it needs to be, at the highest levels with what they believe about teaching and learning in students.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, we differentiate for our students. We are still students, so therefore we should differentiate for the adult students in the building. So we would not expect our students to sit and one shoe fits all. So if we are teaching that way, then we are doing a huge injustice to our children. And so therefore that same thing would apply with us as adult students.
Exactly.
So differentiating our professional development would be extremely beneficial, more engaging, and the outcome would go back to probably driving better data.
Exactly.
So
Right.
it'll trickle down. It's a domino effect if it's done correctly. So.
Exactly. Let's move on to the next question. Well, not to interrupt you guys, because you can always just jump in at any time if you have any, anything else you think of. In your, what degree of importance do members place on professional development? Ms. Nassar, I think you maybe kind of hit on that where you said if it doesn't directly pertain to you, you know, you're zoning off, or if you guys have anything else to add to that. You know, what degree of importance do members place on professional development? You know, are there some teachers that, so I'm just going to go just because I have to go, or do they actually take that professional development information and use it?
Both.
It is?
Important
but
and relevant.
If it's a district type professional development, we have to attend, whether it pertains to us or not. And we take away from it what we take away from it. If it's a school level professional development, then it might be more differentiated and broken down into more components to help us. And if it's a school level, we also, as a faculty, may have more input into saying to our principal, you know, could third and fourth grade or second and third grade work together on that same concept? So I think it's both. I think it just depends on who's providing the professional development, whether it's a district level or a school level.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it would be more relevant to me,
Right.
if it's differentiated to what I need.
Exactly.
So,
Or even be just kind of broad, where you might pick up some helpful hints, and you could take them back to the classroom.
sure.
Or to your grade level.
Sure.
What, and again, I said, what problems do you see on campus that, again, might be related to professional development? And we've already kind of covered that. What would you recommend for solutions? And I know, Mr. Sterrett, you kind of broke that down, you know, with taking the district's beliefs, the needs, turning that into professional development, and then your professional development becoming leveled, or, you know, by interest levels.
Yeah. The other piece to this whole thing is expectations. You know, as administrators, there are certain things that we expect from our professional teaching staff.
Okay.
You know, we expect them to be a part of the school. We expect them to be a part of the system. We don't have to hold everyone's hand and say, you teach this way. It's the expectation that you are using every resource you have available to you to reach all the students in your class at the highest levels you possibly can, so that they are learning. The expectation on the other end is not necessarily the what is the test score. It's what do they know, and what are they able to demonstrate they know, and how are they going to take that forward. So staff understanding and administration letting the staff know what the expectations are,
Right.
and that they're reasonable expectations. You know, in a period of time, you know, we don't expect our math teachers or any of our teachers who are learning math, new math curriculum, to be the expert in 2 months.
Sure.
You know, we don't expect them to be the expert in the first year. Some people may be, but it's an implementation time. And
Right.
so as we move forward and we do things a little bit differently, that's where, you know, we have a reasonable expectation, but teachers also need to rise to the occasion to meet those expectations.
Right. There's a lot of resources to be able to use,
Yeah.
to be able to, just like you said, to teach the math. Or,
Well, and from an administrative side, you know, you're being reasonable in your expectations. You're helping to coach those folks who maybe aren't quite there yet. You know, there's compassionate leadership. You know, it's not just, well, you didn't do that, so
Right.
therefore it's not right. It's what can I do to help you? You know, what do you need?
right.
And this is where maybe the staff development is, you know, part of that. What do you need? So focusing on your target, yeah, I need help understanding how I'm supposed to be doing this or teaching this math because this is totally foreign to me.
And I'm going back to one of the first questions we had, and this is just my curiosity, is does your campus, we put out a survey to teachers at the very beginning? How do you know the needs of each teacher for professional development?
For me, I just ask.
You just asked. Okay.
I've gotten, small groups of teachers together.
Okay.
I have all my specialists together. What is
Right.
it that you need to help us? This is our goal. This is our belief.
Okay.
What do you need in order to help us reach that goal?
Right.
How is music going to support this? How is art going to support this? What do you need in PE? What
Mm-hmm.
resources do you need? For grade level teams, how can I help you? What do you need? And those two questions can be two of the most powerful questions that an administrator ever asks of their staff. Because then you realize, okay, now we can move forward as a group and figure out what's our path.
Okay.
And as a staff, we are very assertive, so we have no problems asking for whatever we need and how we going to deliver a new program. I think from the expectations administration have, and my expectation as a teacher is to see some growth.
Right.
So it's not to be perfect, not to raise the kids to the ultimate growth, but to see some growth as we learn the new curriculums. So that's where we come from.
Right. And that's good for a campus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How would you communicate any issues or solutions that are related to your professional development? I mean, how do you communicate to your staff, or if you get a whole list, just an example of 20 teachers wanting 20 different, professional developments or money issues or budget issues? What are top of the different issues that you might see that come up with professional developments, and what are your solutions?
Too many choices,
Oh, yeah.
too many needs, narrowing that down into a one-day, let's say it's just a one-day professional development.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be able to get them all, because if you have 20 teachers, you're probably going to have 20 different needs
Right.
that will want professional development. So even though the needs assessment is good, it does have to be narrowed down into maybe 3 or 4 for that particular day, and you attend 3 or 4 different sessions maybe.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the next professional development day, you bring in the rest of that needs assessment and try to meet those needs. But it would be impossible to do it,
With as much staff you have.
depending on your staff size, to meet all of that.
What we have done also is to present those needs per grade level, and we prioritize what is that we need first. So, and then with making a priority of the needs, then it will be better for the administrators to deliver whatever professional development is that we really want first,
Right.
or need first.
Right.
Because not all the time is what we want, is what we need as professionals to deliver whatever curriculum is that we are going to deliver.
Right. Okay. Just have a couple more questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can kind of wrap up. And is paying for outside professional development an issue? And the second question is, how likely is it that you would be asked to attend outside professional development if it was paid for?
Outside professional development, with the number of resources that we have, is from our district. We have specialists in each of our areas. Math, language arts, science, social studies, technology.
Mm-hmm.
We have specialists in that area that can come and deliver staff development
That's
as it
awesome.
pertains to to our district. So having those resources on hand help us to be a better district, a better school system.
Wow.
With the schools that we have here, if we are all looking in the same direction, you don't have to be thinking the same. You need to be thinking in the same direction. If we're all thinking in that same direction, we have a lot of folks who are also fairly dynamic within the schools, teachers who have skills that they can bring to the table as well. Sometimes learning from a friend is easier than learning from someone you don't know.
Right.
So
Right.
The outside staff development, I know that in the past we actually had an outside staff developer come in and train teams of teachers when we implemented a new smartboard program within all of our schools. Every classroom got a smartboard.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
brought in a trainer who then trained up to 15 people in each one of our schools, with the expectation then that those teachers would go back to their schools and work in teams to employ that training that they had gotten. So they got 2 days of fairly intensive training, but bringing somebody in is a little bit more unusual than utilizing the resources that we have. As far as conference attendance, sometimes we can allow people to go to conferences, but not necessarily pay for it.
Right.
We'll allow them time off.
Right.
Otherwise, for us, a lot of times it's folks doing conferences on their own. If I wanted to go to the ASCD conference, that's not necessarily going to be paid for by the
Right.
district. If I wanted one of my staff members to go to the National Council of Teachers Mathematics Conference because there's some great things happening in math and bring that back, that may not happen either, just because we have a very strict budget. Now, other resources, we can find money to purchase things, the tangibles that
Right.
need to come in. We're very technologically, we're technology rich as far as tools are concerned. It's some of the things that are not mainstream. We don't use iPads
Right.
except for special ed, as augmented communication devices. But we do use computers in our classroom. We do have smartboards in our classroom. We have
Right.
projectors. We have TVs. We have, responders. We have so many things that can help engage kids. We have used Nook tablets, and we actually kind of graphed that out. What was happening with those students and how was there an influence there? And just the engagement of the tool we found brought up the reading skills of students. They were more interested in reading something on a tablet than they were a regular book.
Exactly.
So
Just, yeah.
that brought up their reading skill.
Mhm.
Is there a tangible response to what we do? So those are some of the issues that we run into. It's not that anything is better or worse or going away or internally. It's just what we have.
Right. Okay. Well, real quick, just give me one solution that of an idea, or give me an idea of what would have meaning to you or to your campus for professional development, or an idea. Whether you think teachers would like to know more about Google, or maybe they want to know about more of a testing. Just give me one thing that you think would be a great professional development topic for your campus. And Ms. Nassar, do you have one?
Probably professional development on maybe a new assessment,
Okay.
a math assessment
Okay.
that would benefit our students more, give us more data.
Okay.
Google Documents, how to build Google Documents so everyone in the school can participate on them.
And share, possibly. Yeah. And what about you, Mr. Starrett?
And technology is a personal passion of mine. There's so many other things. For me, it's I need to know more about how to meet some of the extreme needs that we have with some of our extremely gifted children,
Right.
and some of our students who are maybe somewhere on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
How are we going to meet those kids' needs to the highest levels?
Sure.
You're not going to cure an autistic child, but you are going to help him or her be a functional member of society. How far can you take a third, fourth, or fifth grade student who demonstrates giftedness?
Right.
And what's their area?
Sure.
And so, for me, those would be things that I'd like to know more about.
More about. And then maybe that would benefit your staff, even going in with a student who goes into that has autism, that goes into a regular ed classroom. So, well, we're going to break real quick and do a quick survey. And I'm going to stop right here. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I handed you guys a survey, and just wanted to kind of conclude our meeting with some feedback real quick from you guys about our focus group, which I thought was amazing. And I really appreciate you guys taking your time to help me with this. Was this group helpful for you guys?
Yes.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
was very helpful to listen to everybody's ideas of how to get to a professional development that was meaningful and relevant to the staff.
Okay. And were our objectives met here when we were talking about going down our agenda? Did we meet all those objectives in your opinion?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the agenda was really nice, and it was helpful to have that.
Yeah, it is.
As
It,
well,
well, it makes
so-
it run smoother, I think,
Right.
too.
Right.
Did we conduct our focus group in a timely manner for your? I know time is very important for everybody.
Yes.
It's very timely because as we look toward planning for the school year, this is the time when we're starting to lay out things, and so as we talk about it, having staff development at the forefront of what you're thinking about, in addition to all the other things we need to plan for, it makes it much more relevant.
Right. Well, you can maybe take some of these ideas and directly use them.
Mm-hmm.
Did we communicate? How did we communicate? I think we had great communication, but what did you guys think?
Yes. There was, even though we didn't have a written set of norms, we were respectful of each other's time
Mm-hmm.
and our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and it was smooth and very professionally laid out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And again, our how was the listening and our relevance to the topic? I mean, was that something that had meaning for you? That would help you? That was relevant to you? That
Absolutely.
Would, okay.
Hearing what teachers have to say is always relevant, especially
Right.
when you're trying to set something in place.
Mhm.
Then it's not here's my plan. It's this is what sounds good to me based on the things that that we've talked about. And it's always good to go back and have other eyes on that and other ears on that too.
Exactly.
So,
And from a teacher standpoint, it is nice to hear an administrator
Right.
say that they do hear us
Right.
and that they do take what we say and put some validity to it. That I know that I can say to him, this would be great, and he can either say, nope, we don't need that, or how can we make this better, or what can we do? So it works both ways. It has to be an open door. It has to be flowing for it to be successful.
it has to be collaborative.
Exactly.
Yes, very much.
Okay. And again, I think Ms. Nassar and you guys said, listening was great. Do y'all have any other additional comments or anything about our focus group today, or anything you want to add, or?
No, it was just nice to get together to bounce ideas, find a common ground,
Mm-hmm.
and just to kind of be heard, I guess you would say. So
I appreciate that it's a conversation as opposed to tell me what you need.
Interrogation.
Yeah,
Right.
interrogation. That's a
Yeah,
good word for
yeah.
it. It's a conversation. It's a give and take. Here's what we can do. Here's a process that we may be able to put in place. What do you think?
Mhm.
Tell me what else you might need. Where do you think we need some help? But going into it with ears wide open
Mm-hmm.
is critical on both sides
Right.
to make sure that everybody, you get to that same goal.
I think focus groups would even be something that could be implemented, maybe every 3 months.
Mm.
A certain, people are rotated through different focus groups, and
Right.
that brings ideas and bounces ideas off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a continual process on a campus.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know?
and as a facilitator, you listen to us without interrupting or throwing your opinion in. You were only reiterating what we stated instead of forcing an idea on us or a thought or whatever. So I appreciate that part of it.
And having an agenda kept the group on task.
Right.
So that was very helpful.
Okay. I really appreciate y'all doing this, and I hope y'all have a great school year.
You
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our focus group was amazing. I'm very excited. One of the things that we talked about, or what we described in detail, was professional development on the campus. Why we need it, why it's important, ideas, how it affects morale, which was a big issue. You know, why is it important for a campus? What's a relevance, of professional development? So those were some other ideas. Our agenda was followed. Our participants for the focus group seemed to really like our agenda. I think it brought out some deep thinking that maybe they hadn't even thought about on professional development. Mr. Sterrett, the assistant principal, seemed to think that it is really going to help him in the future with going on with the start of the school year and planning professional development. So I think it was a big, we met our objective. We asked the right questions. What do we need, which was my original idea for the focus group when I went to our principal. He wanted some ideas. How can we make it more meaningful for our staff? I think we did that. And again, we said we want to break it down. We don't want it to just be professional development handouts that just get put into a binder and put on a shelf. So those are some of the things we did. I think we met our objectives. On our survey, some of the feedback I wanted to read to you really quick was it was great listening to other people's ideas of professional development. It was also fascinating to listen to the principal's insight, or our assistant principal, Mr. Sterrett, about how to develop relevant, meaningful professional developments. We did follow our agenda. Some of them said good understanding of what teachers expect when it comes to staff development or professional development. So those are some, seems to have a lot of relevance even to the principal. Did we collaborate? Yes. Everyone on the survey said the collaboration was amazing. They loved the idea that you could sit here and bounce ideas off, that it was just facilitated. You didn't feel pressured to, always speak in the focus group. So that was pretty cool. Our survey evaluation on listening, I think everybody was very, very respectful in that aspect of listening. And the main thing is that our topic of discussion and what everybody participated in was a direct reference to what we came together to complete. So our professional development, I think, also was engaging for them. It was non-threatening. I think that's what's really neat about a focus group is everybody's able to just, kind of sit back and it's just kind of an open discussion. But there's a lot of collaboration that goes on. People can take notes. They can get new ideas. And so I think that's pretty cool. I think everything went very well. I think that our participants really had some strong points. I think that one of the most important thing that was relevant was the fact that the principal could hear what a teacher said and a teacher could hear what a principal said. So that was very relevant. What I would change, maybe have a bigger group. I think next time a bigger group would be a huge benefit, to have more involvement from our campus, and maybe even incorporate some other people into our focus group. Maybe it's the school secretary or the school nurse. You just never know. Surprising information. Really, there wasn't anything surprising. I did like the fact Mr. Sterrett was talking about, taking your schools, what would we say that is? The school, every year, our focus group, or what the school wants to work on, and narrow that down into professional development areas, and maybe split off some of those areas where it's more meaningful for the teachers. I think as far as helping me as a school administrator, I'm very excited to see that a focus group really is a huge benefit to all involved. Another aspect of it is it's totally non-threatening. You really feel like you're just tossing around ideas and bouncing off ideas. It's not like you're going to complain. It doesn't turn into a gripe session. And following the agenda is very important. So as far as transforming my practice as a administrator, I think focus groups are very, very important. I think it provides a non-threatening atmosphere, and I think it is when there's somebody else administrating that focus group, that also helps a lot. Number one, I think having the agenda was a huge benefit. So I'm very excited. I think it turned out very well, and I look forward to implementing some of the ideas that were thrown around and bouncing some more ideas off staff and actually using staff that are already on our campus and in our district for professional development.